The Jake Asman Show will begin shortly. Thanks to all these great Patreon members who help support the show. Get your super chats ready. Jake will be here in just a moment. If you love the New York Jets, this is the place to be. And now, the Jake Asman Show.
It's Lion season. Is Jets GM Joe Douglas putting up a smokescreen? We'll talk about that and much more. It's the Jake Asman Show, so let's hit it and get it started. Man, our Jets are primed for a historic season.
I'm kind of hungry, low-key. I'd take like a bite or something. Do I have to rate it like one? It's good. This one got the deal sign right here.
We bleed Jets green each and every day. This is not the same old Jets. We have Garrett Wilson. Let's go.
We have Bruce Hall.
Please subscribe and hit the like button below. Super Chat, baby. Cut the line. We have Sauce Gardner. We have Quinnen Williams. The Jets bandwagon is loaded. Now it's time to talk all things New York Jets. It's the Jake Asman Show. Here we go, Jet fans. Welcome in. It's time for the Jake Asman Show. Before we bring on our esteemed guest, the great Robby Sabo of JetsXFactor.com, exciting announcement to make official. Folks, 1 month from now, we will be live in Las Vegas from the largest indoor sportsbook in the country. Circa Resort and Casino will be live with a Jake Asman Show megacast all 3 days of the NFL Draft, live from the sportsbook at Circa Resort and Casino. It's going to be an absolute blast. If you're in Vegas, feel free to come hang out. But for those who are going to be watching the draft around the country, watch it with us here on the YouTube channel. We're going to have special guests set to join. Going to be doing prize giveaways. Going to be giving away tickets to Jets games. I got a bunch of things planned for this mega cast that's going to feature some of the biggest names in Jets YouTube, Jets media, and sports and entertainment in general joining us throughout the next couple of weeks leading up to the draft, and then obviously during our mega cast all 3 days. I also want to throw this out there. We're looking for sponsors. So if you're a brand or you have a company and you're looking to get tremendous exposure during our 3-day megacast of the NFL Draft, shoot me an email, asmanjake@gmail.com. I'll connect you with my marketing representative, and we can offer a bunch of different sponsorship packages. So this is going to be our most viewed by far off-season streams for anything I put out on this channel. So I cannot wait to get to Vegas, cannot wait to be out there broadcasting the show during the draft from Circa Resort and Casino. One of our special guests that weekend joining that megacast is Robby Sabo of JetsXFactor.com, and he joins us now in his weekly spot. What's up, Robby?
What a genius Jakey boy is. Talking about the need for sponsors right before I hop on as the JetX co-founder. Evil genius or just happy accident? I don't know.
Many people are asking. I guess we'll never know, Robby. But I am looking forward to you joining that megacast. It's gonna be fun, man. There's nothing like the draft. It's one of those events where no matter what team you root for, how they did the previous year, and we know this as Jet fans, it provides hope for all 32 teams in the league and their fans.
Are you ready for QB3 Zach Wilson to still be on the roster at that point?
Oh,
That's my question.
God, let's hope not. Let's hope not. You think the Jets are holding out hope that a team is dumb enough to give them a seventh-round pick for Zach?
What do you think about the Florio report? It's interesting that it was Florio. I think it was Florio, right? The report that they received offers.
Yeah, you know what the offers were? Hey, will you attach a draft pick and eat all the money for us to take them off your hands? And the Jets are like, no, we won't.
Undoubtedly, but I don't even. It's not even a guarantee that they did receive offers. I mean, there's Florio's smart in terms of knowing the ins and outs of the league, but Douglas plays the games, man. He also plays games, so that's interesting. I'm still on the fence about that one.
So we'll talk about the Joe Douglas comments from yesterday about the draft. But since you brought up Zach Wilson, let's get your take on this real quick, Robbie. This was Woody Johnson yesterday being asked the question: are you willing to release Zach if you're unable to trade him? This is where it's supposed to play, but it's not working. Well, I don't know what's happening here. It's not working. Well, there it is. So Woody Johnson said on February 9th, we need a backup quarterback. We didn't have one last year. And now, 6 weeks later, all of a sudden, Zach Wilson is a valuable asset. Sounds like the Jets owner is trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube. Too late for that, Woody. The whole league knows what you really think of Zach, and the whole league knows what Zach is. He has not been good enough to warrant anything in a trade. When you see Fields go for a conditional sixth and Mac Jones go for a sixth-round pick, it's not going to happen.
There's good and bad news. The bad news is they're trying hard. They're trying very hard to make something happen. So that's the bad news. So it doesn't look like things are happening on that front. But the good news is Woody, to me, and this is my biggest takeaway with Woody, he is with the program. When he talks, it feels like it's coming directly from Douglas, the way he talks. And that's not all the time. I mean, him blurting out, we didn't have a backup quarterback. That's not Douglas. That's the opposite of Douglas. But this right here is sort of a backpedaling and a band-aid in terms of trying to make things right to keep that poker face up. So that's the good news for Jets fans, that Woody is with the program. He's not going rogue, and he's won with Douglas in the regime.
Yeah, look, ultimately, it was always going to be difficult for them to trade Zach Wilson. I think based on what we've seen with the market, now it's nearly impossible. But I think we've reached the point where just do right by Zach Wilson at this point. Like, if you can't find anything within the next couple of weeks, just release him. Don't let this play out through the draft. I just don't think it's necessary. Just move on. I don't think you want to draft the quarterback on day 3, and your quarterback room when you start OTAs is 4 guys, and one of them has no future with you. Like, let that QB3 that you're going to take, whether it's Jordan Travis or whoever, for example, let him come into an environment where it's Rodgers and Tyrod, and that guy gets to sit back and learn. It doesn't have to, like, even just be around the Zach Wilson situation, which could be awkward in that room.
Yeah, that's true ideally, but then again, what if you can't get value now? And there is a desperate, and listen, we're talking long shots here, but there is desperate need in August with a confident offensive mind that thinks they could bring Zach Wilson in and do something with him. So maybe that's in the back of the mind. All I know is they're doing everything they can. They're trying their hardest to trade him and save $5 million against the cap, because it's not inconsequential. If you trade him, that's another $5 million. So, what is it post June 1st? I forget what it is post June 1st, but I know pre June
It's the
5.
same. Yeah, like either whether he's on the team or not, like his money is his money.
Yeah. So I agree with you, but I keep going to the way Douglas thinks, and that's what he's thinking, and they're really trying hard. It's an interesting one. For the harmony's sake, yes, get rid of him. It'll be interesting to see how far they take it.
If you're watching this live right now, please hit that like button down below. We have added a new channel emoji for all the Asmaniacs out there. The Gator emoji is now live in the chat. Yesterday, Gator put on quite the performance impersonating our guy, Gary, a.k.a. 3D Boxing. So if you missed that, check it out. And Gator now has his own emoji for when he impersonates somebody else on the show. Moving forward, questions for Robbie, we'll get to those as well. And of course, I'll put the Gusbuster hotline link to take some calls. Let's talk about the draft specifically in regards to what the general manager, Joe D, said yesterday. So I'm going to play you the clip, Robbie.
Yeah.
Yesterday, Joe Douglas was asked how what the Jets have done in free agency now impacts what they might do with the 10th overall pick. Take a listen.
Well, I think this is an unbelievable O-line class. It's an unbelievable class at quite a few positions. But I think where we're at now, we have great flexibility to go in any direction that we see is best for us moving forward. So I think it opens the door to a lot of possibilities at 10.
Smokescreen season, perhaps, Robbie, right? Opens the door to possibilities, put it out there that we could do this, we could do that. There was also a comment from Joe later on in this media scrum about how yeah, we're not just thinking about 2024. We're thinking about the future beyond the season as well in regards to potentially drafting a quarterback at number 10, which I would be shocked. So
Yeah.
what do you make of those comments there from Joe? Is he trying to kind of create a draft night mirage here? Is he trying to put out different feelers to keep people on their toes?
Yeah, well, first of all, I saw Al in his own just mean mugging it in the back left corner. I don't know. That face had me rolling inside, but yeah, with Douglas, it's all about flexibility and mystery. Their free agency really did a lot to cover a lot of wounds. Granting health, of course. So anything he could put out there, smokescreen, you nailed it. It's perfect. I mean, my answer is kind of bland, but it's general standard Joe Douglas stuff. Try to remain as flexible as possible. I'd be stunned if they went quarterback at 10. But I could see line, offensive tackle still got to be number one. I believe I could see Bowers. I could see a receiver, and I think those are the three. Far fetched, but maybe a defensive lineman. There's just nobody there. That would have to be a trade back scenario.
The thing with the Jets putting it out there that might be in on quarterback is good. Let
Yes.
let teams think, hey, maybe they would take a quarterback, and we have to get in front of the Jets. And let's say the Bears were to trade out of 9 in this scenario. If the Jets put it out there, maybe they could go quarterback. Well, all of a sudden, the Jets are like, we weren't going to go quarterback. Roma Dunze, come on down. You're a Jet because the Bears, maybe we're going to take him at 10, but they got an offer at 9. That was too good to pass up. Like, there's just different scenarios you could put out there by intimating that, well, we could do this, we could do that. But I think the beginning of that clip I played where Douglas was like gushing about the O-line class, and
Mhm.
then he added later in this press conference that they're not just thinking about 24, they're thinking about the future beyond this year. That to me could not just mean quarterback, that could mean offensive line because you have Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses only on 1-year contracts. So you could
Yeah.
say you're thinking about your future while still helping the immediate future by going offensive lineman, which is what I still want them to do with that number 10 pick.
To your point with Zach, if you move him before the draft, that makes it even more mysterious with the quarterback situation. I mean, listen, third quarterback, usually you don't care, but Aaron Rodgers is 40, coming off a injury plague season. Tyrod Taylor's always hurt, so it's not meaningless that third quarterback. So move Wilson. It's even more. There's more of a case. The NFL could think that Jets could go quarterback there, even though it's still going to be a long shot. Offensive tackle is still the front runner in my mind. Latham is starting to gain steam for me over
Really?
Fashanu even. And hey, it's a different world. You can't in every situation, you can't ask an offensive tackle, a rookie guy to come in and be that stalwart right away. It's a different world. Sometimes there's a learning curve as opposed to 2 decades ago. So I could easily see them going Latham or Fashanu and having them be the swing guy and learn under tremendous vets.
So let's talk about your opinion there on these linemen and your breakdown of these guys as you put the work in. Latham over for Shanu. Give us your scouting report
So
on Latham when you watch him.
it, anything right off the bat, I'm not one of these guys who blurts out opinions without fully looking into it. And on O line, I have not yet. So take everything I've said with a grain of salt. And I'm going to shout out Joe Blewett. A lot of my O line thoughts are coming from Joe Blewett right now. I think the best individual player film guy in the world. So when he looks at an individual player for prospects, he's tremendous. And right now, he has alt one, not as high as everyone else has alt. And I think don't quote me on this, but I think he has Latham number 2. And then after that, it's Fashanu and everyone else, Fuaga. So that is where Latham is gaining steam for me. But in the shows to come leading up to the draft, we'll get more into the film, specifically in terms of what I see.
It's interesting because Latham has his supporters. Lance Erline, who I used to work with at ESPN Houston, he's also
Mhm.
NFL.com, NFL Network. He has Latham as his number one offensive lineman. His
Mm.
dad was an O-line coach. I mean, Lance is really good when it comes to evaluating offensive linemen. Look, if they took Latham, you're not going to hear me complain. I just want the Jets to take the guy they think is the best fit for them, not what the media and fans have deemed as the best offensive lineman. Because a couple of years ago, the best example of this is Evan Neal and Ike Aquana were can't miss tackles.
Mhm.
Neither one to this point has panned out. So you never know. Obviously, people are going to say, well, Douglas took Becton. And that's fair.
Becton, yeah.
But, Becton looked pretty good as a rookie, and then injuries happened. You have to hope Douglas learned from whatever happened there, and they can get it right this time around if that's the pick they make at 10.
It's a different world. The football's not the same game it was 20 years ago, and these linemen are ill prepared coming into the NFL. It's just that simple. That's why receiver and tight end is so deep, and the offensive linemen and tight ends even. If you think about going Bowers at 10, receiving wise, I kind of consider him a receiver because receiving wise, he could fit right in. Inline blocking is going to be tough, especially with the way the Jets are going to run uh, their attack. It's going to be a lot more man gap principle stuff, counters, powers. Throw a trap in there with Simpson kicking out and pulling. So Bowers doesn't exactly fit there. Latham does. He's a big guy. What is he? 360, at least 350. He fits their mold right now, I think, better than most prospects.
Man, it's going to be fascinating to see what they could do. Do you give any do you put any stock, I guess is the way to ask this, and maybe moving up for
Hmm.
a Joe Alt if he starts the slide? I mean, there is a path to it because if the Chargers, let's say, were to take an offensive lineman like some have mocked them doing, even with their receiver situation being what it is, they have a left tackle. Maybe they think Fuaga is the best player in the draft at that position. He's their right tackle. All of a sudden, Alt starts the slide. If you're the Jets and you have him as your number one tackle, would you make the call? Would you maybe move up and try and get him?
I think under normal circumstances in the past, past 2, 3 years, past 2, 3 drafts, yes. This year, most likely not. And he'll be tempted. I'm not ruling it out completely, but most likely not because of where they are. And if anything, they need extra assets. So trade down for Latham, much more likely, or even trade down for Bowers, because I still think he's going to slip. I think is much more likely than a trade up for Alt or Harrison or Neighbors or whoever else.
Specifically with weapons, Robbie, if they love one of these receivers, whether it's Harrison, Neighbors, Adunze, and they moved up, as long as it's not next year's one, I'm okay with it, man. I
Yeah.
know they need offensive line help. I'm going to, and you know what they say about assuming that you make an Asman out of you and me, Robbie, but I'm going to operate under the premise that if they were to make that type of leap and trade away future capital to go up, I hope it wouldn't be next year's one, but let's say they do Jeremiah's mock trade and it's next year's two as the headliner. I'm going to operate under the premise they signed Bakhtiari for the swing tackle
Yep.
role. They brought back maybe Connor McGovern. Like, if you're going to make that type of leap and trade up for a weapon now, you have to hope that they have solidified the O line with another veteran acquisition, and then maybe they use their third round pick on a developmental tackle or guard they see value in.
Bakhtiari and Clowney are so critical because they need an extra body on the D line. And I'm not even secure in their interior defensive line right now. I know you got Leaky, who's the big guy, who's Al Woods' replacement, who could two gap it, stand a guy up. They hardly two gap it, but since going with Al Woods, they're not as stubborn anymore with the scheme, and I love that. Kinlaw fits the scheme perfectly, but they need another body there. Clowney could get it done most likely, but I'd still want to search for a bigger interior guy later in the draft. And who's the guy? Bakhtiari. I'd be not shocked or stunned, but I'd be surprised if he doesn't turn out to be a Jet. And for all we know, it could be done right now. They're just waiting for the right timing. And if you get Bakhtiari and McGovern, I don't know if they can fit them under. I think they can because they're up to like 9 million in cap space right now. I saw that Rich Samini put that out recently.
And he
Shout
played
out
for
to
the
him.
minimum too. So
Yes.
McGovern last year, so you could fit him easily.
Yes. So with Clowney, Bakhtiari, yeah, man. If I trade up Neighbors, I'd feel so much better about getting Neighbors as opposed to Alt. And I love Alt, but that explosiveness you just can't teach. It's so hard to find.
Well said. Questions for Robby Sabo? Write them in. Want to give some love to our new Asmaniac, Chris Gardella. Welcome aboard. He's now a YouTube channel member. We appreciate that, Chris. Enjoy the new gator emoji that we added late last night. It was a lot of fun doing a night stream last night, Robbie. Things were going crazy last night. Things were happening.
Did Bruce Hall make an appearance?
Yes, he did, actually. The lane train was tuned in.
I'm telling you, I mean, in terms of Asmaniacs, the unofficial whack pack. What's his name again? Lane?
Lane Kerner, Hall of Famer.
He tops the list. He's the equivalent of Beetlejuice, no question.
He's one of the all-time greats.
You got to find the equivalent to Eric the actor. Although most most Stern fans remember for a different name, but this is 2024. I think once you find the equivalent to that guy, you're humming. Your community is rolling pretty good.
It is the highest of compliments what you're saying about my audience because as a radio guy, Stern
It's
is
perfect.
the goat. So it is
Hey,
appreciated.
listen to me. You got to know your strengths and weaknesses. I'm the opposite of a radio guy in terms of how I speak and what I do. But man, recognizing it, it's beautiful. There's nothing more perfect.
You know who I've been trying to get on this show because he's a big
Who?
Jets fan? The legendary Artie Lang. I would love to get him on this show.
Oh, was he a Giants fan?
I thought he was a Jets fan. He tell you because he has that joke about it. When I was young, I used to love the Jets, and then
Hmm.
I started liking women. Now I love the Jets because the Jets
Yes.
will always bleep you, women won't, or something
I,
like
I
that. Is like his
I
bit.
know he's a Yankees fan, so it makes sense if he's a Giants fan, but I'm unconvinced. Listeners, shout out in the comments if he's a Jets or Giants fan. I can't remember, to be honest.
I thought he was a Jets fan, but if he's
I
honestly, if
hope
he's a
he is, for our sake, just to have one more miserable human in the world.
let me tell you, I'll take him regardless. There's no doubt
Yeah,
about that. Uh,
absolutely.
Franco writes it. Patrick Paul and Christian Jones would be awesome developmental tackles. Blake Fisher as well, who was Joe Alt's teammate at Notre Dame. Like if they do go the weapon route at 10, we'll get to
Yeah.
Bauer specifically here in a moment because I want your take on the Bauer boys. But Patrick Paul, I watched at University of Houston. I like. I don't know if he's there in the third round. If he is, great. That'd be sweet. You might have to trade up for him. Christian Jones, another option. Like everyone's just assuming the only way to get a tackle or an offensive lineman is to do it in the first round. The best teams in the league are able to find guys in that second, third round that they develop and they could be good players. What worries me, though, as I say that, is developmental guys with a Keith Carter coach team. That's
Mhm.
scary for a lot of Jet fans who don't have faith in the offensive staff.
It's interesting. I keep harping on it how deep receiver and tight end is and how it's reversed with the O-line. It's true individually, but if you have a great scheme and you have a great culture and line coach and line unit and quarterback, you can do it. Like you saw Simpson with Baltimore. You see late round picks all the time become one in a unit. So absolutely it's possible. But can the Jets do it? I feel good about it with Tyron Smith and who they have, AVT, Rodgers. Leadership. Leadership is so underrated in football. And the two leaders offensively were Rodgers and AVT, unquestionably. Rodgers goes down week 1, AVT a few weeks later. They have nothing. Is Tyron Smith one of those guys? He's quiet. He leads by example. That's fine. I feel a lot better about being able to snag a guy late and fit him in with these guys.
Well said. Super chat from Dre. We're going to get to the Brock Bowers take segment breakdown in a moment. Robbie, my question is, does your office really look like the Batcave? How long have you been fighting crime and covering the Jets?
Okay. If you were to see my office, which is a small apartment in Florham Park, right down the street from the facility, the Jets facility, Bruce Wayne is the last dude you'd think of. I'll just say that.
Very interesting. How do you like Florham Park?
It's okay. I mean, I'm back and forth between Jersey and PA a lot, but Florham Park's sort of like an industrial type, no small town feel, more lots and stores and stuff like that. More of an office feel as opposed to a town feel. I mean, some Jets players live in Florham Park. A lot of them live in Montclair, Summit. Rogers is in Hoboken, I think, right? So it's okay. Just one of those standard, above middle class type places.
Super chat from the big fella. Can we talk about how the NFL just killed the onside kick with the new kickoff rule? That combined
Yeah.
with the hip drop tackle being eliminated is disgraceful. So the new kickoff rule, I actually think is a good thing, big fella.
Yes.
I covered the XFL, not covered it, but we followed the XFL when I was doing daily radio in Houston because Houston had a team, the Roughnecks. So I went to a couple games and saw that XFL kickoff rule that the NFL is adopting in person. It's way better than what it currently is. You'll have kickoffs. I think it's actually a good thing from a Jet perspective because they are well coached on special teams. Brant Boyer is excellent, and Izzy Abanikanda or
Herb Charles.
Herb Charles or even like Xavier Gibson now as a returner. I think they're more valuable to the Jets and can help them win some games this year with this new rule. Plus, big spot, Just like we saw in 2010 when Antonio Cromartie returned a kickoff in the playoff win over the
Indy.
Colts. Maybe they're like, hey, Brees Hall, go back there, return this kickoff in a big spot late in the game. It's going to add more excitement to a play that has basically been eliminated with the previous rules they put in place. So I don't mind the new kickoff rule. So I want your take on that, Robbie, and then we'll get to the hip drop tackle stuff that
Yeah.
also got passed yesterday.
So I would amend that comment and say the NFL killed the onside kick years ago when they outlawed running before the kick. That was the death knell. Like we just been going through the motions in terms of both kickoff and onside for the last, I don't even know how many years it's been, at least half decade, especially with the onside. You gotta let guys run. You gotta be able to overload it at least a little bit to have any chance. It was a farce. Like, I hated close games when a team needed an onside kick because very rarely it happened. So what they did to amend it with the XFL rules, I love it. I mean, is it perfect? Would I rather have the rules from 20 years ago? 100%. But this is so much better than what they used to have. I equate it to baseball. People hate the pitch clock and all the new rules in baseball. But guess what? It's so much better than how they already messed it up. So sometimes you need a band-aid and it's going to be better.
It is fascinating, but it's to me something that is going to be, good for the like actual excitement of that play, and I think it could benefit the Jets. Now, the hip drop tackle rule,
Mm.
I think is terrible because I understand what they're trying to do in making the game safer, but you're asking these referees who already struggle with subjective plays in real time with the game speed being what it is. It's not an easy job. I understand that. But now you're asking refs to do more? Really?
Yeah.
Like I could already see it now. A game probably early on in the season in prime time is going to be decided by a ticky tacky subjective hip drop tackle personal foul penalty, and we're all going to go nuts as fans. And I pray it's not the Jets who get boned by this, but I easily could see it happening. I just think football, there's a 100% injury rate. And I understand the premise of this rule is to try and protect players from being injured, but it's football, man. Like injuries are going to happen, and this just feels like a disaster waiting to happen. Asking the refs to make yet another subjective call in big spots with this rule, it's scary.
It's horrendous, my man. It is. It's the next item in the line of progression, or should I say regression, in terms of how they flipped the rules on its head and made it so discriminatory for the defense. Because today it's the hip drop, tomorrow it's going to be something different. It's just going to keep going down the line. And why? Because when you try to prevent injuries to a certain degree that goes a notch too far, you're going to create more injuries. It's that simple. Like I understand kickoff and certain things where you're trying to avoid high speed collisions, but part of the reason why this tackle has become so popular is because the rules, number one, and number two, the gloves these guys wear are so freaking sticky. If you were to give one of these gloves to a player in the 90s, he'd laugh at it. He's like, this is alien. This is from Mars. No way this would be legal. This is Fred Bolitnikoff on steroids. So I think yes, they want more offense with the gloves, but I think an added bonus is it promotes more hand tackling with those sticky gloves. Guys have to wear gloves because it's such a benefit on defense to tackle guys. And the hip drop tackle basically is with your hands because you get your hands on them and it sticks and you just use your weight. So they're creating more problems, man. I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
Yeah, a big game earlier in the year is going to be decided by this rule,
Oh,
and it's going to be terrible.
it's too, as you said, it's too judgmental. It's too gray area nuanced. You just can't do it.
Yeah, it's just, I, it's a problem, man. It's a real problem.
Major problem.
Wow, look who stepped up to the plate. Snowball said, "It's my birthday, and I'm going to give the gift to other people on my birthday. Happy birthday, Snowball." It's actually his birthday. We learned that in the Discord chat earlier, and he's gifting 5 memberships to the following listeners.
Show me the money. Show me the money! Money, money, money.
Here we go. The following people received a membership: Sammy Spiridalius, Gerard Malign, Deceptive, Sean, and James Bender gifted as Maniac memberships by Snowball. Snowball, the birthday goat. Love that. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Great to see people stepping up to the plate for fellow Asmaniacs. All right, Robbie, time to get your take on Brock Bowers. Are you a Bowers boy? You mentioned in a trade back you think he could slide. That's
Yeah.
the only scenario where the Jets could take him, and I would be like, all right, I could live with it, assuming they got extra picks. But I'm just not comfortable with the Jets being the team to take a tight end that high, and it's working out for them.
Yeah, I'm trying to find areas to disagree with you on, but I completely agree. I don't want him at 10. No way. I mean, I can't even think of a way where the first 9 falls in a certain pattern where Bowers would be the best option. I can't even do it. It's nearly impossible. So trade down in Bowers, okay, but you got to have Bakhtiari. Have to. At least Bakhtiari, maybe even another. But yeah, no, not a 10. The tight end's too deep. Tight end's too deep, and Bowers is too specialty. Look at Pitts, a specialty tight end who's not an inline guy. You got to have your team ultra ready for a guy like that. And an argument could be made. Rodgers gets that done, but I wouldn't go that route.
It's it's to me just not the right approach for an all-in team, because even if Bowers is great, are we sure he's going to be great right away? Like, tight end's a tough position to be good at right away. You know, one AFC scout, I'll say this, I spoke with over the weekend about Bowers, and the comp I got for him is he's a much better Dalton Kincaid. And my question is, well, how much better? Because he needs to be way better
Way
than
better.
Kincaid,
Yeah.
who was good as a rookie. But you look at his numbers as a rookie versus what Tyler Conklin did this past year, and they're very similar. And Conklin had the worst quarterback room in the league, and Kincaid obviously had Josh Allen. So, like, maybe Kincaid ends up being even better this year. I would expect that in year 2. But this pick is about winning this year if you're making that decision. And it's why, if you're going to go the weapon route, I'd rather just take a receiver, either trade off for one or take Brian Thomas Jr. or take Xavier Worthy, rather than roll the dice that you're the team that's going to figure out how to take a tight end that high and it works out for you.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, these GMs are no dummies. And last year, you know, they have an idea of how the board's going to fall. And Mayer was talked about, and Kincaid was talked about. Laporta, not to the same degree, yet Laporta came out smelling like roses this year, and they all dropped. They all slid in the draft. So, and I'm on the same train. Tight end is so deep in terms of a receiving first option, just like receiver. That guy has to be a no doubt about it prospect to take at 10. And I don't think Bowers is there.
It's so risky. It really is.
Yeah. Now, having said that, they could use a X factor type tight end who is a nightmare for matchups. So I want to be fair here. That's a big differentiator, you know, for the teams like Kelsey and other teams around that have that tight end. But again, they have Mahomes. You have to have other spots locked up perfectly, and I don't see it for the Jets.
It would feel like a pick that if the Jets maybe didn't take Will McDonald a year ago, let's say, Robbie, and they already had, you know, Zay Flowers or JSN locked in, and you signed Mike Williams, and you already had like your big 3 of Wilson, Williams, JSN taking a step, let's say, in year 2, I think you could argue, all right, well, you know, maybe Bowers playing in pass sets with Tyler Conklin, that's like the final piece to having like this prolific offense, assuming you know, added some more depth to your O-line to cover for the, you know, inevitable Tyron Smith injury that's coming type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, then it would make sense. But for where the Jets are at right now, it just feels like it's such a risk, and it's a risk they can't afford to take in an all-in year.
Yeah, and the combo is not going to lose steam because what do they have at tight end right now? Conklin and Ruckert.
Correct.
Yeboah, I think they like Yeboah a lot more than fans do in terms of playing time, what he's gotten. So maybe Yeboah's in the plans too, and we don't really realize it. I think Bowers is on their mind, but I think we're spot on in terms of not at 10, but maybe a trade back.
So I have the clip from Joe Douglas yesterday. This is from Boy Green's Twitter account, so give credit to our guy, Paul Eston Jr. This was Samini trying to bait Douglas into talking Brock Bowers.
Traditionally, you don't see tight ends go in the top 10. Not mentioning any names. Not that we don't know who it is, but what's your philosophical thought on taking a top 10 that night. I mean, a tight end that night.
Well, I think you've seen tight ends go high in recent drafts. Again, we're still early in our process. There's still pro days going on. We're getting in with the coaches in the first couple of weeks of April, and we're gonna hammer out this draft board soon. So again, we're open to anyone that can come in here and make an immediate impact for the team.
He doesn't give you anything, man.
He's laying the foundation, because I think they got burnt what happened last year, where everyone felt like, well, it's obvious they need a tackle. Pittsburgh made the move and they took Broderick Jones, and they leapfrogged the Jets. And I think Douglas wanted to, even if his intention is still to tap into the offensive line class, which I think it is, if I had to guess, he wants it out there that they could do anything, because that helps the Jets come draft night.
Yeah, and free agency, acquiring those holes, that's the best way to do it. So he accomplished that mission. Again, and he's right. It is early. It is still early. I think he overplays that. It's not as early as he's making it sound, but I'm with you. I think tackle's still atop the priority because I think Bowers just needs that extra notch of special ability to warrant all the hype. But we'll see.
And look, he's right. Tight ends have been going a little more early, but here's every tight end drafted in round 1 since 2011 and what happened with their rookie contracts. And as you can see, based on this right here, I'll go full screen so people can take a look. It hasn't exactly worked out great for all these guys. Like, Pitts has been okay as a top 5 pick. They would not do that pick over again if they could. Hawkinson, not really good player, but he got dealt. Ebron terminated. O.J. Howard's contract was just up. Fant got traded. Eifert and Ingram's contracts expired. They didn't get second deals with the teams that drafted him. Kincaid was good last year, but once again, if you're taking Brock Bowers at 10, he needs to be like double what Kincaid was in Buffalo. Hurst got traded. Njoku was really not great to the last year of his rookie deal and then got the extension. So, yeah, we've seen some tight ends go in the first round and a couple more over recent years, as JD said, but it's a little misleading. It's not like we're seeing a bunch of guys go in the top 10 other than Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, and tight ends, a lot of tight ends in mid-round, second round and on have had success. People don't realize tight end. I'm trying to think of all the positions on the field. Tight end is the most two-way type player. Not only are you a weapon in the passing game, but you are an offensive lineman. It is not easy. It is that difficult. So, the Jets looking to win now. If you draft Bowers, you can't rely on him in line. Whatever you get out of him, you teach him, you develop him, you love whatever you can get out of him in line.
Oh, they take him. He's already able to do all that, and he better be great right away. Like, that's how he's going to be.
He won't be able to in line. Receiving, pass catching, yes, but in line, it will. I guarantee you, there's going to be a learning curve there.
Dre with a super chat. How about this? This is why we have the best listeners. Happy birthday, Snowball. Just letting you know I can't wait to catch games with you this upcoming year. Happy birthday, Snowball. That's very nice of you, Dre, to submit a super chat. It's Snowball's honor. D-Rock wants to know, how do I find out when I was gifted a membership? D-Rock, if you go back to yesterday's stream and check the live comments, you could see when the membership was gifted, it comes up and says who gifted you the membership. So I'm glad you got one. You became an Asmaniac, and you can find out which listener of the show made that happen. Big Frank's got a super chat for us. He says, hey, Robbie, anything else the Jets could do to create more cap space?
That's a good question. Well, Mosley's the big one, right? They haven't really tapped into much else. Obviously, they shed a big-time salary with Lakin. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Nothing comes up at the top of my head. JFM may be a candidate.
Quinnen. And then they also could do extensions, too. Someone asked me yesterday, do you think they'll extend DJ Reed and Michael Carter? Carter, you wouldn't save much on the cap. It'd be like to prevent him from being a free agent next year. But DJ Reed, you would save on the cap if you make that commitment.
See, it's interesting. In terms of production and age, Carter, I want to lock up right away. Reed, I want to let it play out. I'm not saying Reed hasn't warranted the credit. Like, he's been tremendous, but I want to wait. But you're right. Financially, do you do it with Reed? And if you do, that would free up some space. So that's a tough one with Reed. I'd say JFM, Quinnen, and Reed, right? Those are the three candidates.
Ripka brings up Tyler Conklin as another extension candidate. Now, I wonder if Conklin's something they wait till after the draft, right? Because if they take Bowers, you're not going to extend Conklin with 1 year left on his deal.
Yeah, you know what's funny? Me and Rivka and Nani had this conversation about tight ends last year. I kept on bringing up Mayer. Like, man, I guarantee you Douglas loves Mayer. I don't think they're going to draft him, but his blocking in terms of an offensive line unit, I guarantee he likes him more than people think. They didn't go that route, obviously. But then on the documentary, he was high on the board on the list that the camera caught. Um, that's one of the reasons why I don't think Bowers is going to happen. And the second thing is we had the conversation about Uzama, Conklin. Like everyone's saying, tight end's not a need. We have these guys locked up. Fast forward a year, Uzama's gone. It just made sense that either Uzama or Conklin would have been gone based on their contracts, and it happened. So Conklin, it's a good call out by Rivka, maybe.
It is certainly a possibility. Once again, though, I think it's one of those things that probably waits till post draft, and that's something
Yeah.
that could get worked out. Quick break, and we're back with more questions, and we'll get to some calls as well on the Gusbuster Hotline.
Let's talk about fashion, and let's talk about how to upgrade your closet. I'm going to tell you about Roan Apparel. Roan stepped up to the challenge. Their commuter collection is the most comfortable, breathable, and truly versatile set of products known to man. They got products for every occasion. We're talking about the world's most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, polos. The commuter collection from Roan can get you through any workday and straight into whatever comes next. Head to roan.com/Asman and use promo code Asman to save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to RHONE.com/Asman. When you look nice, you feel nice. Once again, upgrade your closet by heading over to roan.com and use promo code Asman at checkout so you can receive 20% off.
Shout out to Roan for being a part of our show. And Robbie, I just saw this from Schefter. The NFL is planning to play another game this year on Christmas Day, which is a Wednesday.
What?
So
Now they're just getting greedy, these fellas.
that's crazy. Now, is it going to be a team that played Thursday night the previous week will then play Wednesday the following week, or are they really going to ask a team to play Sunday hypothetically and then Wednesday on Christmas?
No, they can't do that. They can't do Sunday to Wednesday. No way.
So it would have to be Thursday. The team that plays Thursday night the previous week is then going to play prime time on Christmas.
Yeah, I remember a while ago. I think it was the Packers Des Bryant playoff game where there was a controversy and callers were calling into Francesa's show on the Fan and like, let's just redo it. Start from that spot on Monday. Fans don't realize these guys. It feels like you're in a car accident the next day. And I'm talking about high school and college football. Could you imagine the pros? What you feel like the next day? So 3 days, it just won't cut it. No, the players' union would never go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they could pull a team that played Thursday and a team that played Saturday, right? Because at that point, that late in the year, you have the Saturday window because college is over. So
Saturday's the big one. Yeah, good
call.
call.
That's too much. It's way too greedy to do.
Has there ever been a Wednesday game? Has there ever been a Wednesday game?
The COVID year there was when they had all the reschedules.
Well, they got Friday last year with the Dolphins and the Jets. They're trying to get every day of the week. Maybe it's Tuesday. No, they've done Tuesday, right? Because Monday's been delayed a day, I think.
They should have asked Woody yesterday about if the reports are true that he's pushing for Black Friday again.
I haven't even heard anything about that. Is that true?
Yeah, the Jets want to play Black Friday every year. That's what I've heard.
Ah, come on. You don't need that.
I actually don't mind it, to be honest.
I don't mind it either, but to push for it like hard, does it become a Jets thing? If he's trying to turn it into like a Jets thing where you wear black, and I don't know, I'm just not loving it.
It gives me a Sunday off from the stress. Just get to watch.
That is cool. Anytime the Jets aren't playing Sunday at 1 is a treat because you get to watch the rest of the league.
Exactly, especially when they are already in this point would have played for 2 days. So they'll have the painful loss on Friday. I'll sulk and be pissed about it all day Friday, all day Saturday. And then by Sunday, I'll just try and move forward with my life and watch other teams play. That's usually how it goes.
That's true. My advice to Woody is don't push it too hard because, after several years in a row, same old Jets would be accompanied by Black Friday. We don't need that.
R&R says the trading deadline is after the 9th week now instead of the 8th week. I don't have a problem with this. I think the further you move it back, the more likely teams are willing to make deals. Like, because teams are still in it after week 8. The Jets were 4-3, for example, and then the year spiraled. I don't know if their approach would have been any different if they were 4-4 at the deadline, but I think the later it is, the more likely you get some more names being moved, which is exciting for fans. So I'm okay with the trade line moving back a week. I don't see the big deal.
Oh yeah, no, that's move it back as far as you can because what it traditionally was absurd. What was it, week 5 at one point?
It is, yeah, it was really early. Oh my god,
Really
yeah.
early, forever. I mean, that was the nature of the football. Time has flown. Has it maybe been a decade since they moved it back a little bit?
R&R says, get my likes in early. Thanks to you, RR. Leany says, hit the like button. Thank you, Leany. Leany's one of our great members. Johnny wants to know, would Robby riot with us at One Jets Drive if the Jets took an edge at pick 10?
No rioting for this fella. But I would be very, very. I'd be pulling my hair out because that's a tough one. That's a tough one to swallow, especially with this list of edges. Trade down and do it, no problem. But at 10, it's tough.
If they traded down and took an edge, you'd be on board with that? I wouldn't.
Not on board, but it is the degree is much more acceptable.
Yes, but it's still bad.
Agreed. I don't want to spread malinformation or misinformation. Agreed. I still wouldn't be happy, but it's much more okay. I can tolerate it.
Oh my god, if they if they took an
Yeah,
edge rusher at 10, I mean
listen, if they get Corey Davis back, Bakhtiari, yes, I still want tackle, even if they get Bakhtiari, but the player would have to be a stud. I mean, it depends on the names. I just don't see any possible way that would happen. I think interior defensive tackle would be more likely, to be honest. But again,
Byron Murphy, maybe, right? Because he's that good.
how do the prospects land? That's the question.
Yep. This would be my reaction if the Jets decided to take an edge at 10.
When you lose, you're a loser. I suck. Joe D sucks. We all suck.
Yeah.
You suck, Salah.
I suck. Joe D sucks. Joe D sucks.
They're gonna pull out a Simpsons.
We all suck.
They're gonna pull out a Simpsons clip where the guy lights himself on fire. Family Guy, I think it's Family Guy. Guy drenches himself in gasoline and then lights himself on fire. I thought that was Asman.
They better not. I'll be so pissed.
Joe D sucks.
Yeah, he does suck if he takes an edge at 10. Can't have it.
You don't want who's the first D guy? Dallas Turner at 10?
No, but if a team wants to come up for him, I'd be happy to trade back.
Yeah, I'm with you.
The pain. Lots of pain. All right, let's get to some calls. Johnny's first up on the Gusbuster hotline today. What's up, Johnny?
Hey, what's going on, Jake? Hey, what's going on, Robby?
What's up, Johnny?
First and foremost, happy birthday to the great Snowball. Just, wishing him a happy birthday. But, Robby, I did want to go back onto your take about Latham.
Yeah.
Right? Because I did see there's been a lot of talk that there's a lot of people saying that he might be even better than Joe Alt in the pros, right? With that being said, why is it that he's fallen so down and there's a possibility that he might be in the 15-ish frame that we might be able to go ahead and draft them if we do a trade back scenario? Just wanted to get your thoughts on that because I'm high on Latham. I like Latham a lot. I think he's a good player.
You're talking about Alt?
Yeah, there's some people saying that he might be better, that Latham might be better.
Yeah, you're saying Alt might slide to like 15 or so. I mean, it's about the athleticism for the size. I mean, that's I think
Alt's not sliding. I don't know who is saying he might slide to 15, but that person needs to get drug tested.
Correct. He's not going to slide to 15, but is there a scenario where Latham goes ahead of Alt? I think it's still unlikely, but the momentum is going there. Like I'm seeing Latham in the top 10 and a lot of mocks as the second tackle now. So I think it's athleticism per size. And if you look at Douglas's pick of Becton, granted it was the COVID year, you don't get to know the guy as much. But if you look at those raw attributes, that is coveted at the line in the trenches. And the Jets, especially, and I made this point, they went beef this offseason. They took note of how they would get pushed around, both offensively and defensively. I know the defense was good, but they would get run on in the interior at times, especially after Al Woods went down. And they have corrected that with Tyron Smith, Simpson, Moses, and Leckie. I still don't know Leckie's last name. I can't pronounce it, but so Latham could be a strong possibility, but I don't think they'd have a problem taking all if he slides.
And if that's the case, right, with our 10th pick, this tackle that we get, wherever it is, would they end up just having almost like a redshirt year to where they're going to learn behind Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, et cetera, et cetera? I appreciate you guys, man. You guys, JETS, baby. Let's go.
Appreciate it. And, I mean, they'd come into camp as a redshirt, but they'd play guaranteed because injuries happen every year, especially to this line. So, yeah, I mean, that's the ideal scenario, redshirt year, but no, he'll be on the field, guaranteed.
Yep, no question about it. Wow, breaking news, folks. Buckle up.
Money, 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 money.
The big fella coming through for the people. Benjamin Weinstein gifted an Asmaniac membership. Michael Duramo gifted a membership. EJ gifted a membership. MTS gifted a membership. And Andre Cali all gifted memberships by the big fella. Awesome. We're going to be able to keep on adding emojis soon.
How are you doing this? What's the lore you're putting out to have everyone gift memberships?
It's just the Asmaniacs coming together. It's Snowball's birthday. The vibes are high. Jets have made some good moves. This fan base is alive, Robbie.
I'm not convinced. I think there's an ulterior motive somewhere I'm missing. I got to get to the bottom of this.
I mean, maybe it was the breakfast sandwich emoji we put in the other day that really said, you know what? That's what I need. That's why I need a membership.
I might order one of those, actually, when this ends.
Maybe that did it. Let's go to Bobby Midnight. He's up next. Hello, Bobby.
Hey, how you doing, Jake and Robbie? I never met you, Robbie. This is my first time talking to you.
Hey, love your name, man. I've been called Bobby many times, and I don't correct them.
Well, I like Bobby better than Robert, I tell you that.
Well, why don't you tell me how you really feel? I mean, that's...
No, Robert. No, Robbie's okay. I'd rather take Robbie than Robert.
You know, it hurt my heart when Robbie Anderson changed from Y to IE.
Oh, right. That's like, well, Bobby, the IE is a girl.
Yeah, there's no IE. That's the other gender, I shall say.
Yeah.
What about when Robbie Anderson changed his name to Chosen Anderson?
That
hurt you?
That was the nail in the coffin.
Hey, Jake, you know that guy you mentioned earlier today you wanted on your show? He's
Artie
a
Lang?
Giant fan.
Artie
Yeah,
Lang's
he's a
Giant
Giant
fan?
fan.
Artie's a Giants fan?
I couldn't
Yeah.
remember. Well, Gary Delabate, Baba Booey is a huge Jets fan, but I couldn't remember if Artie was too.
Bobby Boo, I like that guy. I think the Jets should get all. What are the Giants picking? You know what?
They're at 6.
Well, they could get all before you guys. I don't want a quarterback on my. I don't want any quarterback.
Well, also an offensive lineman, Bobby.
Yeah, that's what I want. I wanted Zach Martin and the other one. Remember?
So you want the Giants to take an offensive lineman, or you want them to take a receiver?
No, I want them to take an offensive lineman.
Well, I don't think they will, but you never know.
Yeah, receiver.
And Robby Sabo.
Yo.
Do you know what makes me mad about the Giants? They got rid of Barkley, and guess who he signed with?
Philly.
Yes, which makes me mad.
Yeah,
he's got to run over 200 yards both games.
I don't blame you, but hey, that's his hometown, man. Like, he grew up somewhere near Philly, so how can you hate the dude for going back to his hometown?
I mean, they paid him the most money, and the Giants didn't make him an offer. So it's like, you know, I don't know what you want Saquon to do.
Yeah, and I don't blame the Giants.
No, I understood their thinking. Like, this GM never took Saquon anyway. That's why it's like, because there are some Jet fans out there like, well, you got to get the quarterback. It's like, really? We want this regime to draft the quarterback when they're not guaranteed to be here after this year, and then a new regime comes in that had nothing to do with the quarterback you took? Like, that's why it doesn't make sense to do it in the first round. Like, maybe a year from now, if the Jets are good and, you know, Douglas and Saleh get extensions and, you know, they're going to be here for a couple more years, you could argue if there's a quarterback you like, you could do it. But, like, the NFL is all about timelines for the regimes you have in place. So the Barkley pick never made sense then. And years later, the Giants certainly regret making that pick because they could have traded out and got a huge haul.
100%. And sometimes we're too positional leading up to the draft. Listen, if the Jets love a quarterback, like say they're in love with McCarthy and he's the real deal, no one's going to, if he turns out to be the real deal, no one's going to care that they drafted him at 10. At the time, yes, there's going to be a lot of screaming, and I understand it, but it's about the player. It comes down to the player. But all things being equal, completely agree. No QB. No QB.
Nope, can't do it. Can't do it. All right. Couple more minutes left with our guy, Robby Sabo, or should we call him Chosen Sabo? This from the big fella.
Robbie Anderson's out of the club. He no longer gets a silent nod when I walk past him in the hallway. Done.
That's it?
Done. Like Larry David has that unspoken bond with bald people. That's how Robbie's with a Y live life. But no more. No more. Sun God is, I don't even know. What team is he on these days?
Free agent.
He's still a free agent?
Yeah,
Oof.
I don't think anyone signed him.
Oof.
I mean, he bounced around last year. He's like, he lost his top end speed, I think. That's why he's kind of like bouncing around now, you know?
Yeah, he's never been a great route runner. Like, he needs that deep threat speed.
Alan says, I gift memberships and I don't even like Jake. Alan, you do gift memberships, which we respect. But still, I don't like you either. Stupid town you go.
Excuse me, miss. I need to return this damn child. He's no good. Sometimes a child just is no good. Take this one back.
Taking Zach back to the stork.
That child, man. A damn child.
And was that Alan with an O?
That is Alan with an O, yeah.
I
We don't know
remember him.
why.
Okay.
Chris, up next on our show today. What's up, Chris?
What's up, Jake? What's up, Robbie? Love the content. Been a long-time follower of Jets X Factor, so keep up the great work, particularly with the film study. Wanted to talk a little bit about maybe some of the smoke screens that Joe D is setting up, particularly at the offensive tackle position. I'm in agreement with you. I think that's priority number one, given Tyron Smith's lack of health over the last several years and Morgan Moses coming off the injury. Common name that we hear kind of jumping up the boards is Taliesin Fuaga. When you look at some of the traits that Joe D looks at from an offensive tackle, it seems like he places a huge emphasis on size, athleticism, and then the big one being the length in terms of arms for these tackles. Fuaga's length is 33 and an eighth or so, which I think really sets him at the 20-something percentile in terms of reach. Probably better suited either for the right side or the interior lineman. I'm just wondering, like, when you think about Joe D's traits that he looks for, what linemen stand out to you? Because the ones that I've kind of seen pop out are the kid from Washington. I think he's got pretty good length, but I don't know if he's quite the athlete to survive on the left side. And even like Joe Alt is kind of a shorter armed guy. So anyone that stood out for you that might fall within the crosshairs of Joe D, particularly maybe in the second round or in a trade down scenario?
Fontano, Chris, I'm with you, or Fontanu. However, I think it's
Washington.
Fontanu, the Washington left tackle. By the way, his arms were greater than one of the other top tackle prospects. So people are like, oh, he is a tackle. He's not a guard. So, Chris, I would like it because he has guard and tackle flexibility on the left side. Because if you ask me who's more likely to get injured, Tyron Smith or Morgan Moses, to me, it's clearly Smith. So, Fontanu being able to play guard and left tackle, I think would be huge for this team. So that'd be my guy in a trade down.
Yeah. Who's the? Go ahead, Robbie.
I agree, but in terms of 10, it's Latham. I mean, I think he's got the longest arms. He's got the traits. So at 10, Latham. But yeah, I agree with
that's the guy who
Jake.
stood out to me too. I'm just wondering if there's some PTSD from the Mekhi Becton pick.
There could be.
That's gonna. And who's the surprise pick? That's going to shock the world. I mean, obviously, don't tell me a defensive end. I can't see another DN. But what would be the pick that would just shock the world? And I'll let you guys go. I appreciate the time here.
Chris, thanks for the call. I'm guessing he means the surprise pick at 10.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think it'd be Bowers, although it wouldn't be as big of a surprise. But I don't think they're going to go surprise this year. If I had to guess, to me, it would be, I guess, quarterback if one of the big, quote-unquote, big four, if we're throwing McCarthy now in there, falls to 10. But I really think this decision comes down to 3 positions: offensive line, receiver, tight end. If there is a surprise, I lean with it being the quarterback, because at this point, I don't know if Bowers could be considered a surprise because we're going to be debating it for the next month and change now. We have
Yeah,
been debating it.
yeah, I'm with you. Bowers to me would still be a surprise, but it's in the ballpark.
Yeah.
A more, I guess, realistic, I can call it, more realistic, but long shot type thing would what I mentioned before, trade down and snag one of the D tackles. But that would definitely be surprised.
I mean, how about a conventional draft, right? Last year we got the surprise with McDonald. How about JD is there at 10, and they say, "Wow, we love Olu Fashanu. We think he's going to be our starting left tackle for the next 10 years. We're getting him now. Great,
Yeah.
take him. Done. Fine."
That's the leader in the clubhouse for sure. And he mentioned Becton, buyer's remorse. It's a little different now because that was, I mean, think about Douglas taking over. He takes over after the draft in 2019. Then his first draft is during COVID. You don't get to talk to these freaking guys.
Also,
So
Gase was the coach, so maybe they were drafting for scheme too.
right, and Gase was the coach, so you get to talk to these guys and get to know them a little more. So yeah, there's buyer's remorse. Maybe he shies away from Latham because of that, because of the the physical attributes. But I think it's a lot different where you get to know them and feel comfortable.
Yeah, it's just look, Becton, after his rookie year, no one was talking about him being a bust. Unfortunately, he then missed 2 years of football with injuries,
Yeah.
and that is what set him back. But I could vividly remember doing a draft show when the Jets traded up for AVT, and we were thinking as Jet fans, wow, the Jets' left side of the offensive line is now set up for the
Yeah.
next 10 years with Becton and AVT, because Becton was impressive as a rookie. He played 13 of 16 games that year, and he looked good when he was out there. He dealt with some injuries, and he had to leave a couple games for sure. But when he played, I mean, you saw the talent. It just unfortunately has not worked due to injuries, and this year he just wasn't the same guy as the year went on.
This is why I'm higher on Douglas than I think conventional thought is out there right now, is because the process has been correct. The process, what he's trying to accomplish, has been correct. It just hasn't been the right results. And does that fall on him? 100%. But it's not like a McCagnon where he's neglecting O-line on purpose every freaking year. Like before Douglas came, their last first round offensive lineman was Mangold and Brick in 2006. That is outrageous. That's oh my God. I can't even tell you how disgusting that is in terms of player development. It's awful for a franchise.
Yeah, you're right about the process. I mean, Douglas has taken basically premium players with top picks. Like they haven't all worked out. See Zach Wilson, as we know,
Yeah.
but it's not McCagnon taking safeties in the first and second round in the same draft. Like
Oh
it's not
dear.
that.
Yeah,
Oh God.
that's yeah. And listen, he's hit on some mid-round guys. Michael Carter, I mean, top 3 slot guy in the league. That's what was he, a 5th or 6th round pick? There's in terms of bust rate, he's relatively solid. Like it's above average for sure. And where it lands compared to others, like even the greats have a lot of busts. Look at Ozzie Newsome's drafts.
Look at Nick
So we'll see.
Caserio. He's now the toast of the town in Houston and in the NFL. Douglas had drafted better than Caserio, but Caserio got the quarterback right, and that's what it's all about. I mean, we thought they got it right last year with Rodgers. We didn't get to see it, so it was just another nightmarish year reliving the Zach Wilson debacle. But if you tell me Aaron Rodgers plays this year and he plays 15 of 17 games, there's no excuse for this team to not be in the playoffs. That's the bottom line.
Things change quickly, man. I mean, Houston was a joke 2 years ago, came out of nowhere this year. The Jets were still a joke heading into what year was it? 2 years ago, heading into that year. Surprised everyone. Started off 5-2, 6-3, 7-4. And no one at 7-4, no one would have thought they'd be where they are now. But hey, injuries are the deal. They got to overcome it.
I mean, injuries at quarterback derailed the last 2 years, if you think about it, right? I am convinced if Mike White didn't get hurt, they find a way to sneak into the playoffs when they were 7-4.
They that Minnesota game, if Berrios hangs on to that touchdown, I mean, they're going to be a playoff team, most likely.
No doubt. No doubt. Robbie, I appreciate you hopping on, man. Thanks for an hour of your time. We'll stay in touch because we got some big things coming with that draft stream, and I'm looking forward to all the rumors and the smoke screens between now and then to talk about.
Let's roll, dissect it, check out Jets X Factor, and I think me and Corbett are going to do a show at 7 tonight, so tune in for
Ooh,
that. Get
Wayne
him on.
Corbett. When's he coming on this show, Robbie? When's it
Man,
happening?
I'm the magic man. I make things happen, but this is a tough one. This is a tough nut to crack. I'm working on it.
I love it, man. He's Robby Sabo, co-founder, JetsXFactor.com. Check out his great work. Robbie, we'll let you get back to the man cave. Talk to you soon.
Take care. Later.
He's Robby Sabo. I'm going to stay on a couple more people on hold here. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Continue to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Shake and Bake writes in, what do you think about a trade back from 10 and selecting Brian Thomas Jr.? Love that idea. I think he's a first-round talent. I think his size would complement Garrett Wilson long-term. And if you could get an extra pick or two in the process, I love it. Maximize your resources. Take advantage of the fact that you filled your needs in free agency so you can be creative now in the draft. Let's not forget, a couple weeks ago, it was a foregone conclusion. Best tackle at 10 call today. Don't mess around. Now they got some wiggle room. They still could go tackle at 10, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm open to that for sure. Absolutely. Back to the calls we go.
It's time for another V-Man call. Hopefully he not sleeping. Adios mio.
V-Man. Hello, V-Man.
Well, I was actually just watching your show with a nice bit of café con leche and pan de manteca.
Sure.
Oh, it's also known as, for some people, maybe it's also known as pan sobao. So it's very good. Yeah, but I agree with your take. I agree with you guys. I agree with the fact that you shouldn't overthink this draft. It should be just simple, straightforward. Just address like the needs. That you don't need anything. Like the first round pick, I agree that tackle is probably the best option because yeah, you have Tyron Smith, but he's injury prone, and you're probably only going to get him maybe 1 year, maybe 2, possibly if he decides to just stick around for another year and do another ring chase. But outside of that, it's not a long-term answer there. You need to get that long-term answer, and you should address it in this draft while you have the chance. And I agree with Robbie's take on Douglas, is that there's logic in his moves. With McCagnon, there wasn't any logic. It was, to me, it always felt like how's the expression? Throw enough crud at the wall and hope some of it sticks.
Yeah, I mean, there was no draft plans with McCagnon other than the year they clearly were all in to get a quarterback and moved up for Darnold. But even if you think about it, that plan, they got lucky how it worked out where Darnold was their number 1 quarterback and they got him at 3. But they made that trade on St. Patrick's Day in 2018, not knowing what quarterback they were going to end up with. They just moved up from 6 to 3, and they put themselves in a vulnerable spot where the Giants could have moved out of 2 that year, V-Man. And then the Jets maybe could have got leapfrogged by a team coming up for a quarterback. Denver tried. Dave Gettleman would have returned John Elway's calls. That's the famous story from that draft. And obviously, the Jets had Darnold as their number 1 guy. They got him because the Browns were in love with Baker. But, I mean, there was no real plan even with that plan, right? Like, Douglas at least has had plans. He just has to execute this plan this year. Otherwise, if it doesn't work, he might not be here to execute the next plan next offseason.
I agree. Like I said, that's the thing. Like, people can bash. I mean, like, there's criticism. And I always believe there's room for fair criticism, even when someone is doing a good job. Like, there should always be room for critique and criticism. But at the end of the day, you have to acknowledge the fact that, unlike previous GMs, there's logic to every move. There's logic to the moves he makes. There's logic and reasoning behind those moves. You have to respect that.
This was an interesting comment that just came across my desk for you, V-Man. My dad says, V-Man, brought to you by the Puerto Rico Commerce Department.
No, no. That's.
Are you paid off by Puerto Rico?
No, I wouldn't accept their money.
Why not?
I don't accept money from the most corrupt government in America.
But V-Man, you're headed there soon. I don't know if you want to be bad-mouthing them.
What are they going to do to me?
I don't know, V-Man. I don't know.
That's the end of that V-Man call. Now he can go back to sleeping.
God, what a V-Man call. MJ Dunn, Super Chat, cuts the line. He writes in, how come nobody adds AVT as injury prone 2 years? You certainly can. That's more of a justification to add an offensive lineman. I think it's because AVT's injuries were very fluky. Like, he played every game as a rookie. He doesn't have an injury history in college. You know, we're not talking about a guy who's got like chronic hamstring injuries or calves or, tissue muscle stuff, right? Or like a knee injury that's like flared up multiple times, like what Bakhtiari's going through with the Packers the last few years. AVT suffered a bicep strain and an Achilles injury, like very random, severe injuries, It's not like it's one specific thing that's ailed him. I think that's why. But until proven otherwise, he is injury prone, unfortunately. He's got to go out there and have a year where he plays 15 of 17 games, right? Like that's the key. Reese says pick Penix in the late rounds. He's not going to be there in the late rounds. Michael Penix is probably not getting past the second round the latest. I think he might go round 1. Bobby writes in, Alan, you have a big mouth. Shut your pie hole. Love it, Bobby. Dave writes in, hoping for a run on quarterbacks gets the Jets to trade down and wouldn't touch Bowers with the proverbial 10-foot pole. I got you. Proverbial, I meant to say. Ugh, can't speak. Bowers in a trade down is more appealing than taking a tight end at 10. Take Bowers at 15. Take Bowers at 17, 18. I get it. At 10, I'm very worried. Kareem says Rucker's our guy. He has hands and can block all we need. He needs an opportunity to play. If you take Bowers, you're burning a third-round pick. Seriously, we have no idea what Rucker is. We see the talent. He has not played. He sat behind Uzama for 2 years. Tight ends, it usually takes a year or two to learn. Now he should break out this year, and we're going to just move on. I wouldn't do it. More calls right now. Gary up next. Hello, Gary.
First off, that skit that Gator did yesterday, I showed it to my wife. She thought it was the funniest thing she's ever seen. That was gold. I don't know how he does this, but he's got some type of talent. I hope he's using it for good. That guy is incredible.
You made it when you get impersonated by Gator.
Yeah, I'll take it as a compliment. I'll take it all as a compliment. I wanted Robbie's take because between his Carmelo Anthony take and now Brock Bowers, look, here's my issue. Jeremy Rucker has 17 catches and 150 yards in 2 seasons with the Jets. And you're going to pass up on Bowers, a generational talent, because of Rucker. Like, I just don't understand Jet fans. Like, if you don't want Bowers because you feel like you're in a position where you can win and you want a tackle, I understand that. I wouldn't do it, but you said we're going to trade down and we're going to draft Latham and get another pick. I understand it. Brock Bowers had 500 receiving yards after the catch at Georgia last year. Rucker didn't get 500 receiving yards at Ohio State in a year, period, I don't think. Right? Like, yeah, they're not comparable players.
That's not what I'm saying when I bring up Rucker. What I'm saying to you is I think they have a very good tight end already in Tyler Conklin. I think Rucker's got potential to be a solid number 2 tight end. So when you're talking about the 10th pick in the draft, you have to ask yourself, what's the best way to make our team better? If I think they already have solid solutions at tight end and Rodgers will elevate the guys they already have in place there, then what's the best way to use that 10th pick? I still think the safer and more logical way from a big picture perspective is offensive line. That's my point. I'm not saying Rucker's better than Bowers. Rucker was a 3rd-round pick, though. He's not supposed to be Brock Bowers, but he's got potential, and let's see what he could pan out to be. Like, some of the best tight ends in the league were not 1st-round picks. Most of them weren't, is my point. So why not just take a safer pick instead of the risk in Brock Bowers? That's the point.
Let me just get in on that, right? Like saying I'm not going to pick a tight end because a lot of the other tight ends taken in the 1st round were mid. It's like saying I'm not going to take a quarterback number 1 because Bryce Young sucks and Trevor Lawrence is mid. It's like, okay, this guy's not him, right? Like, Brock Bowers is not Kyle Pitts. Other than they're both going to be drafted early, I don't even see a comp between the two. Like, they're very different players.
So
like,
why did Pitts go high? Why did Pitts go higher than Bowers? Or will be
physical attributes. Like Kyle Pitts, if you go watch Florida, he's not really that big of an impact player, especially in the red zone. Like, he really isn't. Like, there were questions about Pitt. You took him because of his physicality. Okay, but you're taking him on potential. You're taking Brock Bowers on what he's done. Brock Bowers was the best player on the best team in 2 different offenses, right? The speed, athleticism, the ability to get back to the ball, make a play on the ball, and then carry defenders on his back like he's Mark Bavaro in the 1980s New York Giants. It's like crazy. Again, if you want to take a tackle because you think we're that close and you're going to pass him, I understand. But what you need to understand is you're passing on the best player available, right? Like, this is like, well, I have Clyde Drexler and we're good, so I'm going to take Sam Bowie over Michael Jordan. Okay, just be careful with what you're doing. Here's my question: if we list Bowers,
how do you think he's that good though? Based on I don't see it. Like I don't see it with Bowers being. I don't think he's as good as you make him out to be. I don't.
If you think he's
that.
overrated, if you think he's overrated, he's not as good as I'm saying he is, then that's another reason. If you're just saying I don't want a tight end, because to me it's like Tim Duncan's the best power forward of all time. That's really good for a center.
But I also don't want to. I also don't want a tight end because I don't see it as a big need. They have other major needs. They have a major need at offensive line and receiver over tight end right now.
So if we call Bowers a receiver, can we take him then?
But he's not a receiver.
He kind of is. This is like Steph Curry. He's the best point guard ever. Yeah, but he's a 2 guard, right? I mean, he's a 2 guard. Brock Bowers is a wide receiver. He can play tight end and he can play wide. You can line him up wherever you want. That's my point about him.
I understand, but don't you think a better idea would be you take a wide receiver then if you're that set on adding a weapon, or you just trade up and get more of a sure thing than taking a risk with a tight end at 10?
I've said if you could trade up for Marvin Harrison, you should do that. If a Dunze or Neighbors fall at 10. Which I don't see happening, especially Neighbors. You should take them over Bowers. But if a Dunze's at 10, which I guess is an outside chance, I would take a Dunze over Bowers too. I would do that. But if those guys are gone and Bowers is sitting there, how much further do you want to let this guy drop? I understand the position and the salary associated with the position isn't ideal, but he's a really, really special, unique player.
Look, you're not crazy for this take, Gary. You're not. I understand what you're saying. I just want the Jets to do something that is less risk adverse in an all-in year, is my point. Because Bowers might end up being great. Are we sure he's great right away? We don't know. What can help the Jets in 2024? To me, it's the tackle for when you start having the carnage of injuries, as usual. And then Aaron Rodgers is not on his ass. Because I think Aaron Rodgers has proven he could win without an elite tight end, and he already has a good one in Conklin. I understand the appeal of Brock, and he's more than just a tight end, but still, that's his position. That's what he's playing. That's where he's going to line up as a lot. He'll play in the slot. But he's also going to line up as a true tight end. He's not going to play on the X or the Y with Nate Hackett calling the plays. Not happening. To me, the only compromise I think we could make with the Bauer boys, Jet fans, led by now Gary, is you trade back and you can do it. But it's tough, man. I'd rather the Jets be all in and move up and get one of these top receivers than to take the risk at that position with the 10th pick in the draft. Tyrone writes in with a super chat. Trade back, offensive tackle, receiver. We're good at tight end. We need to be ready at those positions. We're going to mop the floor with the AFC this year. Go Jets. I mean, if you trade back, still get one of the offensive linemen, it could somehow accumulate a second-round pick. Oh, my God, I'd be giddy. That would make night 2 of the draft so much fun. Imagine the Jets came away with Troy Fontenot and Roman Wilson. And then their 3rd-round pick, they could take maybe another receiver, maybe another offensive lineman. Maybe this time you go interior. The key to this draft being magical is, in theory, trading down and getting a 2, or being bold and moving up. but we'll see. It's easier said than done, as we all know. Dre in the office up next. What's up, Dre?
For the Garys and the Allens in the world that are obsessed with, oh, you take best player available, we could have a glaring need at, left tackle, and Gary's going to be like, oh, we got to take this generational punter because there's only, this guy could kick this ball out of the stadium and blah, blah, blah. Listen, at the end of the day, if I have a need, like we have to address this position. Oh, but there's this, person with superpowers over here. That doesn't mean nothing. Okay, that's great. I need to address the need. Oh, well, let's just make Bowers into something else. No, stop. Tyler Conklin, Jeremy Ruckert, we're fine. I don't want to hear about no tight ends. I don't want to hear about none of this. Again, I don't know why we have to keep reiterating this to the Jet fans. Like, I understand we're all Jet fans. We're crazy. So there's something wrong with us in the head for choosing this team that does this to us every year. But you have to build the football team from the inside out. It's more important to protect Rodgers. And yes, add a wide receiver, trade back, do all of that, but address our needs. OT, wide receiver. We can give him a weapon, we protect him first. Bowers does neither of those things. And we all know at the end of the day, Gary doesn't like Gary. Rodgers, he has this reputation about working with rookies, things like that. But training camp last year, he was balling out with undrafted rookies. So that may be a shift. But at the end of the day, I don't. If we had Paul Hackett, you know, if we had Paul Hackett, maybe I'd have an idea. I'd have a little trust in our offensive coordinator to be able to utilize,
You
generational
trust Paul
talents.
Hackett over Nate Hackett? Neither one was great.
Yeah, but actually, who I wanted was Bill Parcells. I think he's the one that started us with, having Corbett and stuff like teams like that, like would like block down on running plays for Curtis Martin on the edge. He'd have the wide receiver. Oh, I'm gonna interrupt this linebacker, and the wide receiver obviously would get killed, but the linebacker would not be there to catch Curtis, and then it'd be a 20-yard run around the corner. Things like that. I don't trust, maybe if we had, I actually don't even trust who's the offensive coordinator for Baltimore. Because after that AFC Conference Championship, I was so confused why they kept having Lamar throw the ball instead of running, and they were only down like by 10 points. So it's like, I don't know if the coordinators know how to use the weapons that come up from college. And to even start talking about college production and things like that, if you drop a college player as they is into the NFL, they're not going to get those amazing runs, the teams and the talent in the NFL is too good. So you can't say compare this college players college stats in college games compared to what NFL players did the year before. It just doesn't work. You can project, oh, they did this in the college game, they project to do something similar in the professional league, but you can't just do a straight comp like that. Gary is insane, and he should, instead of what he's doing, whatever it is that he does for a living, he should definitely interview for all the GM spots, all the scouting reports, because he knows everything. Him and Allen could come up with some sort of like consulting firm, go to all of the NFL teams, make themselves some money. Because at the end of the day, put your money where your mouth is. Do you really think you really can see the future like that? He's over here screaming about Zach Wilson. Now, I am no truther. But I was screaming in my car when I was rewatching that whole argument you were having. We were like, there's no way Joe Milton, projects better than Zach did when Zach was out. I remember all the hype with Zach. I remember being thrilled that we got him. And I was like, oh, we got us our quarterback. And I'll never say that out loud again because that was so wrong. But like you don't have a crystal ball. You can guess, you know what, and maybe your guesses are right, but at the end of the day, it's just a guess. I trust JD. He's done more than enough this year to bring me my faith is back put in him. Salah, I don't know if I agree with the style of coach he is, but the way he inspires his players, obviously, I don't know what I'm talking about, but his players do. So let them cook. Let's see what we got. JETS, Jets. I'm out.
Trey, thank you for the call. I just don't feel comfortable with the Jets having a need on the offensive line and receiver in a draft class that's deep at both, taking a tight end. That's really what it comes down to for me. It's simple. Bang Mateo says, no trade up. Brees worked hard for the 10th pick. This is such a dumb comment. Bang Mateo. Oh, the Jets won a game. I'm going to pretend like I'm mad they're picking 10. You know how many good options they still have at 10? I don't regret them winning that last game at all. They beat Belichick in his last ever game. He couldn't even get another NFL job. We're going to be upset that Brees Hall ran it up his rear end in Bill's final game. Really? What a loser mentality. What a loser super chat this is. I don't want your $2. I don't want your blood money. JJ chimes in. Here we go, folks. Saleh made me a believer after the presser. Love how he said there's no playoff mandate and he's just focusing on winning games. 15-year playoff drought. JJ, the only thing that would have made you happy yesterday from Robert Saleh, let's be real, is him coming out and saying, I resign as head coach of the NYJ. All right? I was thinking of you when he said this.
When you lose, you're a loser. I suck. Joe D sucks. We all suck.
All right? That was for you, JJ. What do you want Robert Saleh to say? Their actions will speak louder than words. If they don't win, they're gone. It's not Saleh's nature to say, hey, JJ, I know I suck. Please show some faith in me. Aaron writes in with a super chat. How much concern you have with the O-line injuries with the field we have? I see players complains about it. Aaron, I don't know the end of there, but I got the gist of your super chat. It's concerning, but not just for the O-line, for every position. If you have players telling you the field sucks and then you do nothing about it, how does that make any sense? And John Mara said yesterday, oh, well, we can't add grass to MetLife. We have too many events. It would cost too much money. I'm sorry. I just watched an announcement. I just saw that the NFL is putting the Eagles opener in Brazil this year on Peacock. The NFL has more money than God, and they're willing to let players play on a crappy surface. And it's two owners in New York who share a stadium who could split the costs. It's a joke. Got time for 3 more calls. Alex Phenom at NY Jets, Florida. Let's go to Alex from D.C. He's first up. What's up, Alex?
I wanted to chime in on the Bowers. Listen, it's like talking politics and religion, right? Nobody's going to, whatever side you're on, nobody's going to convince anybody to think differently. But here's the deal. Obviously, the number one option is, if you're at 10, is to take an O-lineman. I think we all agree. Now, if you're able to trade back, whether it's 12, 13, 15, and you get a second-round pick, then I think that makes going Bowers a lot more realistic. Reason being is because Tyron Smith is our left tackle. So let's say we go left tackle. That now allows us to take maybe a Patrick Paul in the second round, who is whoever we take at tackle, whether it's the 10th pick or a second round pick or third or whatever, they are a backup to Tyron Smith and a long-term option. So if you're able to, let's just say in a perfect world, get a second round pick, and I'm just throwing it out there because he's the first name that comes to mind, you can now go at a Patrick Paul in the second round. That gives you more flexibility in the first round to go in a different direction. Now, Bowers is an elite talent. Let's be clear. He's not any of the names you listed, in Njoku and the dude in Atlanta and all these guys. He is a better prospect than all of them. Let's be clear about that. He's been more productive and all of that. Secondly, that people may not be considering that I just thought of. This new hip drop rule increases his value because he's a physical guy. He's going to be harder to take down when he gets into that third level with the DBs and safeties and corners and stuff like that. He's a mismatch. He's a weapon. We need weapons. Running back, tight end, receiver, he's a weapon. And I think you can go receiver, again, ideally speaking, in, let's say, the third round or something like that, because like you said, it's a deep draft. Maybe an Xavier Leggett, maybe the tall kid from Florida State or whatever. I think once you get outside of that top 3 receivers, Odunze, Harrison, and Neighbors, I think it's a crapshoot at receiver, and like you said, it's deep, so there's no reason to, let's say, trade back to 13, 15 or whatever, and then still go receiver. I definitely would not do that. I would go Bowers over a receiver, but I wouldn't kill going, trading back and still going offensive tackle in the first round, excuse me. But ideally speaking, if I was Joe Douglas and I did get a trade back option, I definitely would highly consider Bowers because of those reasons.
Yeah, look, that I think is logical, right? I think at 10, when you have a guarantee of all these really good prospects at positions of need being available that are quote unquote safer, then it's tougher to justify, right? Like, think about it. It's a loaded receiver class and a loaded tackle class. You have needs at both, so you're going to roll the dice on tight end. Like that. That's where I think it's risky. If you do
Right.
it in a trade back where you're covering yourself because you're getting extra picks,
Right.
it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to justify to the fan base.
And that's my point. In a trade back, I do it at 10. I'm going offensive tackle. That's my point.
Do you have a preference at tackle?
I'm biased. I don't know if you know. I think I've told you in previous shows. I coach out here at a pretty good high school, so I'm familiar with a lot of the Gonzaga guys. Fashanu, he's a Gonzaga guy. He was Caleb Williams' offensive tackle, and I know a lot of those kids. And I remember they won a crazy game when they were seniors against DeMatha in the WCAC championship. Look it up if you guys can. A Hail Mary last second play. So I'm familiar with him, and I'd love to see him in a Jet uniform.
I like it. Hey, I hope it happens to you then, Alex. That'd be great.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you.
Great call. Great takes. See, that's a rational take from someone who could handle the nuance of the Bauer discussion. Super chat. This one is from JJ again. Putting our faith in a coach who said, I suck, JD sucks, etc. A coach who said Keith Carter just needs to fix his communication skills. Salah equals joke, LOL. We get it. You hate Salah. Now you can't hate on Douglas anymore because he's made good moves. So now you're just pivoting to Salah because there's nothing he could do from now until September. So you're going to say the same thing over and over again about Salah. We get it.
I suck. Joe D sucks. We all suck.
We get it. All right, JJ? We get it. I don't know what you wanted them to say yesterday. Players play for him. He has built one of the best defenses in the league. He has hired one of the best defensive coaching staffs in the league. He doesn't have Zach Wilson at quarterback anymore. He has Tyrod backing up Rodgers if there's an injury there. It is set up for this team to now win. If he can't win, he will be replaced. But they're not doing it now. And you're a season ticket holder. It almost sounds like you want the Jets to lose. Like, the amount of money you spend being negative is wild to me. Crazy. You're a season ticket holder. Dre writes in with a super chat. JJ, I'll send you a Zoom link. Let's get on a video chat, and I will debate you because you are insane. If you guys want to debate away from the show, please. I don't know if I can handle it. I have to deal with JJ and Gary and all our wacky callers. I got to deal with them in dosages, man. But they make the show fun. I love it. They keep you on your toes. 2 more calls. Phenom's up next, and then NY Jets Florida, and then I got to wrap. What's up, Phenom?
Hey, good morning. Good afternoon, Jake. This is what options does to this fan base. Like if this draft mimics at number 10 what we've done in the free agency, I'll be happy. If we can get a offensive lineman, if we get a receiver, if we could get a running back along those lines in this draft, I'll be happy. Last night I was on Green Bean Show and we did a Monday night mock, and we moved up and we got Marvin Harrison in the trade. Now, I don't know how realistic that is. I don't know what we would have to do, what kind of resources we would have to put out to get that. But we got Marvin Harrison Jr. Then we got 2 offensive tackles. We got Jones from Texas and Mahogany from Boston College, I believe. And then we went down and got the running back from Wisconsin, Allen. And then we got a safety and then the linebacker. And we got everybody thought that was a pretty good draft. So moving up is, like my guys, if we move up and we get Marvin Harrison Jr. or I'm losing my thought here.
Neighbors.
Na-
Dunze? Roma Dunze?
Alt or one of those other guys. That would be great. Sorry, I lost my thought. But we have options, so we're in a really good position. So the fan base can argue, but just as long as Joe Douglas has a plan in place, I think he's going to double down. That's my belief if he stays at 10. But we have options to move up, move down. So we're in a good position versus what we were on last year, this time in the draft. So you guys can have it any way you want to, but you guys don't have the final say so. So stay tuned for the draft.
That's right.
Enjoy.
Now, what did you trade up to get Marvin Harrison Jr.? Because I'm on board with it, but it depends what the cost is to move up.
I don't know. I'd be lying. Listen, I think we gave up our 10, and then I don't remember all the details. Sorry. Oh, 61 years old coming in, but it was a deal where the computer accepted it and we went through with it. But we got off the 10th pick, and I think I can't remember all the details on that, but we have options. That's my point.
I love it. Phenom, you're right. They do have options. It's not like last year where they have basically pigeonholed themselves. One last call. NY Jets, Florida. Close this out, NY.
Hey, Jake. Good afternoon. Appreciate the few minutes. Couple things real quick. My number one choice is to trade number 10 for CD Lamb. I was talking to my buddy, he's a Cowboy fan last night. He basically said they should trade CD, Micah, and Dak and just blow it all up and start over because you're not going to pay.
It's a waste of time. They're never going to do that. They're going to try and win this year. They've won 12 games in a row in the regular season, 3 straight years. This is stupid.
Well, he's saying you can't pay Dak $60 million a year. But my point is, my number one option is trade for CeeDee Lamb. Secondly, I don't think this whole Marvin Harrison thing is realistic, because if he's a generational talent, why would you trade him? I mean, why would you just take the guy? I just don't understand that take. I just don't get it. Thirdly, I think Gary almost had you on the Brock Bowers thing, Jake, but your logic is like, how do we know he's that good? But you have a bunch of offensive linemen. You really don't know how good they are either.
Yeah, but that's not my point. My point is, if you look at the history of the draft, that's why I show that chart from tight ends in 2011 on in the first round, and compared to the hit rate of offensive linemen, you hit on O-linemen more than you do tight ends. My point is, if you're going to take a risk, if you're the Jets, I'd rather it be at a more important position, which is offensive line, for a team whose quarterback is 40, coming off an injury, whose left tackle doesn't play full seasons. Best case, we're hoping Tyron Smith plays 12 or 13 games. And he's on a 1-year deal. So is Morgan Moses. AVT, maybe only on a 1-year deal. We'll see what they do with his 5th-year option. So I'm trying to prepare for the future, because I hope the Jets are never picking this high again, and they're never in a spot where they could get a player this good. So I'd rather it be at a premium position rather than a tight end. That's the point I'm making.
I understand the future, but the future is the next 2 years. We're not doing traditional rebuild, or building a team up, in my opinion.
So how does Brock Bowers help you without a quarterback? And a lineman will help you no matter what.
Let me say this, Jake. A lot of the people with Bowers takes have not watched the games. They would probably watch YouTube videos. Okay, I watched a lot of Georgia games. This guy can play the Deebo Samuel role. He runs out of the backfield. He can block. He's a mismatch. That's what helps you. Rodgers gets the ball out in his hand, and I'm not married to Bowers, okay? But Rodgers can get the ball out realistically in 3 seconds, and to put the ball in that kind of weapon, along with the weapons that we have now currently, it's a complete mismatch. And I understand the take of, we need more linemen, and we could get back Ciara, we could draft a lineman in the 3rd, we could trade down and take Bowers at 15 or 20. But I just don't understand how you would. It's just blanket say, okay, these tight ends have busted, but a lot of the tight ends, like I said previously, were busted in the 20s. They picked them in the 20s and teens. They weren't top 10 picks. You only had a few on that list that were top 10s.
I mean, Kyle Pitts was a top 4 pick, and he hasn't worked. And they're saying the same things about Bowers they said about Pitts a few years ago. Like, people just forget. But that just happened, though. Sorry. What do you mean? That literally just happened.
But Jake, And I'm not going to compare the two, but so many of these quarterbacks bust too. There's so many players that bust. You just have to move on and have no memory. We're building a team for 2 years. What's going to help Rodgers? An offensive lineman who plays 5 games, or a Brock Bowers, or another weapon. I'd rather take my chances with the weapon.
An offensive lineman might help because he might end up having to play more than 5 games, and you're avoiding worst case scenario, which was last year where you led the NFL on offensive line injuries for 2 straight seasons. Your quarterback's 40, and it's not like they don't already have a solid tight end on this team in Tyler Conklin, and they used a 3rd-round pick on Jeremy Rucker 2 years ago. He's barely had the chance to play. Now he does. You're burning a 3rd-round pick, and you're using a top 10 pick on a non-premium position if you take Bowers that high. That's the point.
Well, I didn't say 10. I said maybe on a trade down. But let me say this. Why did the Lions take Jahmyr Gibbs? Okay. They upgraded they saw a need and a high-end explosive player who can break games open. So the Lions drafted a running back and got off of him really fast when they saw Jahmyr Gibbs. They're willing to upgrade. So I'm not saying take Bowers at 10. If the board falls a certain way, I would take Bowers at 10. But if I'd rather trade down and get a lineman and then, kind of add more pieces that we need. But, that's where I'm at. I just blanketly stating, oh, we can't take a tight end high is just, you got to judge the individual player. That's why I think Gary had a very coherent call with the Bowers thing. Try to get a Dunze or Neighbors or somebody. But if Bowers, we can get, slide down and take Bowers at a few more picks, maybe get another player. That's the kind of guy I want. Just another weapon for Rodgers. But I appreciate it, Jake, as always. Have a great show.
I appreciate it. Look, they still could add other weapons, but it's harder to find good offensive linemen. That's the point. If they needed to add a weapon in season, it's easier to solve that at the trade deadline. It is a loaded draft with weapons at receiver. Offensive line-wise, you really only have the draft left to add a premium player at that position. That's it. To me, it's just about how you use your resources. And the idea that you only have a 2-year window helps my argument that you should go offensive lineman then. Because if you're rebuilding, you know what will help the next young quarterback this franchise tries to take that's probably going to split this fan base and end up being a bust like all the other ones? A really good tackle will help that quarterback. You don't think DeBrickashaw Ferguson helped Mark Sanchez when they were winning games with him? And the Jets built the best O-lineman in the league, offensive line in the league? Man, like the idea they would take someone that high and that guy's only playing 5 games. Have you seen the history of the Jets with O-line injuries? Crazy to me. If they take Bowers, I hope he's the greatest tight end ever. I would just be very worried. Dre, channel member for 7 months. Click the like button. Hell yeah. Whether you're pro Bowers or anti Bowers, we all agree. Like the show. You're more likely to get gifted a channel membership the more you engage. JJ, he's back for more, baby. Oh boy, what do we got here, JJ? Jake, I could point out JD signed a bunch of free agents coming off injury. Williams, Moses, Smith, Taylor, etc. AVT coming off injury, and A-Rod. So don't think JD's off the hook completely yet. We'll see. Of course he's not completely off the hook. They got to win. But you were calling in last week saying that Douglas should get to hire a coach after Saleh. That doesn't make any sense. Don't tell me that JD's not off the hook yet when I told you that when you were trying to pander your nonsense about how Robert Saleh is apparently Satan. I thought the Buffalo Jet fan had a great tweet about Robert Saleh yesterday. We'll talk about it when he joins the show tomorrow. He tweeted yesterday, honest question. If I told you at the start of last season, Aaron Rodgers misses the whole season with Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, and Trevor Siemian left to muck about behind Jake Hansen and co., what's your record prediction? Yet we actually act like Saleh is a war criminal. I don't have evidence he's a good NFL head coach, but there's no apples for apples comp to this. The Browns went 5-1 with Watson. The Steelers went 3-0 with Rudolph. Google his stats versus our quarterbacks before you laugh. No team Wilson, Boyle, Simeon's their way to the playoffs ever. Think about it. There's a chance that the quarterbacks the Jets started for 17 games last year, none of them are on active NFL rosters week 1 this year. There's a chance. Zach Wilson might be on a practice squad somewhere. He might be Josh Rosen. So there is a chance that a team that won 7 games this past year might have started 3 different quarterbacks, and none of them are actually on an NFL roster week 1 of the 2024 season. Think about that. And if there is one of those guys on an NFL roster, Zach's probably a third stringer somewhere. But apparently Robert Saleh is the worst coach ever. It's so silly. Dre writes in, no receiver in history ever elevated the quarterback. Plain and simple. Stop the crazy talk. I'd push back on that, Dre. Like Tua, I think, got elevated by Hill and Waddle. I think Braylon Edwards and Holmes and Kotry helped elevate Sanchez. But I agree with your point, Dre, that offensive line is still the pick. That's the bottom line. Ricky wants to know what time does BJF come on tomorrow? 5 p.m. Eastern. BJF joins us. I mean, it's going to be a fun debate, Jet fans. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. We're just scratching the surface of the Brock Bowers combo. We really are. Before we get out of here, reminder to sign up for the Patreon if you want bonus content. I am pre-recording a couple shows over the next few days for later this week because I am moving at the end of this week, and my travel schedule is insane with everything I got to do between now and then. So if you want to get some shows early, patreon.com/Jake Asman Show. Sign up for just $5 a month. You'll get those shows in both audio and video form because Patreon's getting them before the regular YouTube channel. And if you missed our announcement earlier, we're going to be live at Circa Resort and Casino for our mega cast of the NFL Draft. If you have a brand or a company interested in sponsorship opportunities, shoot me an email, asmanjake@gmail.com, and I'll connect you with my marketing reps, and we'll get you set up with a plan that makes sense for you or your business. I want to thank again everyone who tuned in to today's show. Like the video on your way out of here. Subscribe to the channel. I'll likely be back in the afternoon with another show. JETS, 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 Jets. I'll talk to you guys soon. This was you after you fell off the scooter. I mean, this is what you look like.
It's a pretty good representation.
I didn't see you fall off the scooter. I just saw the aftermath of what you look like post-scooter fall.
I was gorgeous. I always was.
Another caller on the line here that wants to talk to Cole. Cole Thompson has called in. Hello, Cole.
Wait, what?
Hey, Jake. What's up, fake Cole? You guys are so wrong on almost everything today. First off, I don't understand why Gator unsubscribed to my YouTube channel again. That guy is killing my damn algorithm. Also, I'm running out of Hawaiian shirts to wear, so may have to break out the belly shirt soon. Hey, fake Cole, let me ask you a draft question. How many times a day do you use the word sailor?
A lot, actually. You know this.
Don't get smart with me, fake Cole. Your last mock draft crashed like you zipping around on a scooter at the combine. Gotta hand it to you, though. You are growing up fast. Pretty soon, that mustache might even grow enough to connect with your chin hair. On that day, we will celebrate with a 2-gallon bucket of Copper John's beard retention cream. It will be a glorious day. Anyway, got to get to my scooter riding lessons. 3 more months and I get my license. See you guys later, and tell Gator to suck it.
Thanks, fake Cole.
Thanks, Cole. We're going to have a serious talk about this later.
Well, that was classic Gator there. Well done.
That was incredible. Honestly, Gator, that is a top 5 moment on the show for me. That is 100%. That maybe even is he is right. I do hate myself.